once you've come to the end of your project, you can see I've made this long scarf-like thing. I'm going to also show you how to turn it into a twisted headband, but until then, first, how do you cast off? So you come to this stage where you have all your stitches and you're ready to finish. First, you're going to want to do whatever stitch you were doing before. So this is completely knit. You can probably tell if you have some background knitting knowledge. Knit is just a type of, almost like a type of knot. It's a particular pattern. Now, taking your right needle, you slide it underneath your left one and you begin to do a knit. So do one knit stitch and then we do another. So you want to do 2 knit stitches, just like this. So once we have 2, this is when the slightly tricky part happens. You can use your needle and you can poke it under the first one, so the one closer to the bottom of your needles. And once you have that secured, you're going to lift it up and over the tip and other stitch so it comes off. Now, if you got confused by that, don't worry. It's pretty much the same for the rest of it, so I'll do some closer shots. So let's do it again. So now we knit a second stitch. We don't knit 2 stitches at a time, now we just knit 1 at a time. And so put your needle underneath the back stitch and pull it up. Oops, I slipped. Pull it up and over the point and slide it out. You can already see this is where the end of the string of the project is finishing. Now let's do that again. So I have about, I don't know, like 10 stitches here. So I'll just take it through. So make your knit. So you've got 2 stitches. Then take the bottom stitch and lift it up and over and around the top stitch. Take the bottom one and drag it up and over the top. You can tell plastic needles which are quite slippery, so that's why I keep slipping, but also doing it for the camera can be a little bit difficult sometimes, just working in around the camera. Take the bottom stitch and lift and lower over the top. And so on. So you're going to repeat this process until all your stitches are done, and I'll show you what happens when we get to the end. So just remember, you knit 2 stitches at a time by adding a new stitch each time. Lift and lower the bottom one over, and then you knit another stitch, so you always want to have 2 stitches. And then you lessen it down to 1 by lifting and lowering the bottom stitch over the top. And then you do it again and again and again and again. You make 2 stitches, you get rid of the bottom one, you make another 2 stitches, get rid of the bottom one. Obviously, if you've noticed by now, the bottom one is the top one from the last round. Okay, so I've gone down to my last final 2. So your second last one's just normal. The last one we do a little bit differently. First we poke underneath. Whoops, I took it right off. So we sew it on normally. So we've got 2 stitches. Now for the last one, what you want to do is you lift and lower over the top. And then with this final stitch, get your scissors ready. We're going to go a length down the string. I like to give it a decent amount of string, of wool, acrylic, whatever you have, and cut it. Now once you've cut that end, you'll see here I've got quite a length. you take your needle and you simply pull. You pull that entire length through your hole, and once you're done enough of it with your needle, you can actually use your hands, and then it's completely tied. So this is what it should look like. It's very neat and tidy and quite tight. You can see it there. And now that we've done that, make sure it's tight, and you can chop off a bit more. You can leave less of a tail. You can cut it right up close, it's up to you. And so now I have this. This is what it looks like casting on. If you want, I can do a casting on video. Casting on's actually really easy. And cast it off. So now that we've got this long length, what are we going to do with it? Well, I'm actually going to make a headband. Now obviously, yes, you could just sew the ends together and you have yourself a stretchy, flexible headband, but I'm going to do something a bit different. First, I'm going to trim off the two edges so they're a lot shorter. That's what the end I just made, and this is the end from the start. Once you've got that, all you need to do is bring them together. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take one end and fold it to make an N, or like a V or U, depending what you hold it as, and do the same with the other one. Now make sure you have your slightly messier side. If you have a messier side on the inside, then taking our two U shapes, we're going to simply place them together like that. Now we're going to pinch that nice and tight, and we're going to sew in and out through here. So let me just go to needle thread. So to sew this end shape together, all I have here is some needles. Now these are the wide ones which wool can fit through. You could use thread, but wool is good because it blends in. I have quite a few of these. I keep them in this little pouch thing here. Let me show you my other ones. I have 3 different sizes of the metal ones. So these right here. For knitting, of course, the biggest one's easiest just to thread things through. And I have this giant one from a kids craft set. Now this one also works very well. I'm not going to be using it because it's got quite a big head and it's going to struggle to go through. Actually, change of plans. I'm not going to use my nice metal ones because I just figured out often these craft ones come with a little round sphere on the end just to stop kids poking themselves. But it seems to have been broken off, which is great because it means it stabs through nice and easy, doesn't leave a mark. So I'm going to be using this one. So I'm just going to pop these 3 away. Okay, now for the actual sewing part, you're going to choose one of your colours. I'm going to stick with an orange because I think that's the more dominant colour on this knitting piece. So just cut yourself a bit of that. You need to give yourself a decent amount, even though you're not going to be sewing that much, just because it gives you flexibility. So use the end that's a lot tighter wound, wind it, twist it a bit if you want, and thread it through the hole. Okay, once you got it threaded through, pull it a bit until you get this end. So we kind of have it sitting in there. If you've ever done cross stitch before, you will recognize this just having part of it in and part of it out. So this is the long bit and this is the little bit hanging off. You can sew like this normally when you're sewing, but of course I'm not expecting you to know how to sew. You might know, and if you do, that's great. Let me know in the comments below whether you guys have ever done knitting or sewing before. Okay, so grabbing these back into our end shape. Once you put the two ends together, you'll notice you get like an S. Mine's backwards, but you could of course rearrange it to make it frontwards, doesn't matter. I just have it here like this because that seems to work nicely. And pretty much all that will happen is when you sew it together and you twist it inside out, it'll look like this. It looks like a twist. So pop it back the right way, take your S, and now we're going to simply start sewing. So make sure all the ends are lined up just to make it neat. And we're going to poke in here. Now try and go quite close to the edge but not too close. Now I'm going to get to here. I'm going to leave part of that out of, I'm not going to pull it all the way through because it hasn't got a knot on the end, so there's nothing to keep it staying there. Which means when I do the next stitches, I have to be quite gentle when I pull, just to make sure I do not pull the entire thread with me. Now it seems I should have gone for a bit longer thread actually. Thought I was overdoing it, but no, could have done with a bit longer. Bear with me, I've only made a few of these before, so don't really know. Now, once you come to the end, you can pull it out, and we're going to go back. See, you can barely see the stitches, which is really good. So we're going to go back to where we came from. This gives it extra support, and it means we can tie off at the end, which is, of course, what is important to make it stay. So I'm very close. You will want your needle to end up on the same side as where you entered. So poking it through. And now we can pull the string off the needle. And we have these two ends. Now to prevent anything from going, from changing, pulling out, we simply take the two, cross them over, put the one on the back through the front. So this is just a basic knot. You probably know how to do this from just tying your shoelaces. And then do it multiple times and pulling it tight each time. About 3 will be plenty. And now we take our scissors and we snip off the excess. Time for the big reveal. So this is what it looks like on the inside. And now we're going to fold it inside out. And this is what we're left with. So now you can put away your needles, your thread, your scissors, your missing needles, and you're left with this. It is amazing. It's quite pretty. I preference solid colour, but I just use double colours just to make it interesting to watch. Though I don't know whether you can actually tell, I use 2 different types of wool, an orange and a red for this. And so yeah, this goes at the front of your head or on the side, and it's a pretty twist, which isn't actually a twist, it's just an S. Can you still see the S? So yeah, you just make an S and you sew through it, and ta-da, when you turn it inside out.